Dogs and DID. I'm here with Cat Tulip, and we're doing our DID and D&D. Yay! So, how have you been, Cat?
Very, very well. Well, I'm kind of hot today. It's hot again here, but I am in the house on my own, so I am not in the tiny hot bedroom. I'm in the lounge, so it's a bit cooler.
Yes.
How have you been? And more importantly, who's with us today?
Who are we?
Who are we?
Who are we? I don't know if I should go into like a Who song there or like an Alice in Wonderland type thing. I have got Clay. I'm messing with Clay. There is very much a mixture of me, like a normal Danny, and Scarlet is around a lot today, along with a bit of Luna and a lot of Danielle because I've been working. So
Okay.
I have no idea if I'm staying, if I'm leaving, or if I'll even be aware of the switches. I know we spoke that we're going to do Scarlet today.
Yep.
And Scarlet is sneaky with switches.
Okay.
She is one of the best at pretending to be me.
And I have discovered off recording that if Danny has Clay in her hand and is presenting as Danny, it's actually probably Scarlet in the background.
She's usually around, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm doing like a detail.
Danny completely and utterly just hold a conversation with me and make something at the same time, but in almost as if it was like, you know, her hands were separate.
Mm-hmm.
But that was Scarlet.
That was Scarlet. That was making the little phoenix thing that we're doing. Today it's like a lion sphinx from it. So I'll show you. I have the book here that I'm copying. So, but we're going back to 4th edition here, guys.
Ooh.
And it's that.
Nice. I look forward to seeing it.
So a lion sphinx thing. Well, I've got some new clay, so I'm testing out a new kind of clay to see how I can, if it's good, if I like it, if it's worth investing in, and that kind of stuff. So well, not that I'm one. Well, I do invest in it, but see, I can hear my tone changing a little bit now. I hear it.
See, we were just talking about this earlier, how you are starting to pick up on those things yourself now.
I am. It's really weird because I've been me for over 30 years, you know, just thinking that it's me alone in my body, like a normal person. To then find out that actually you're not alone in your body. There are actually 10 people in here with you that I'm aware of. It could change. But yeah, I'm listening a bit more and becoming more aware of it, which is kind of cool. And this stuff really helps. So doing these videos with you it's like the D&D community, guys. You are helping me heal. You are helping me learn. And hopefully I can, yeah, lots of love to you all.
Lots of love with the helping the heal. And that's part of what we were trying to do here is, you know, this started as a journey to help Danny explore this you know, situation she was in, and it was a different way to explore it. But also giving you as an audience an insight into, you know, that lived in experience that's more than just reading a book. And, you know, from there we have some interesting plans. We're not going to discuss anything more than that, but we really love this idea of you've given to us so much in different ways, and through the work we've done here, you're helping Danny. I know a lot of you have helped me in different ways before, and so we're looking to hopefully give something back to you as we grow this thing and just have that comfortable conversation, because you know what, it's okay. Yeah. Different is okay. Different is not terrifying, it's not scary, there's nothing wrong with it. Different is good, because actually, so you know, I'm beginning to discover with my journey about being neurodiverse is that actually I am great at what I do because I think differently. So different is good.
Yeah,
that's today's
message. Not left. Absolutely.
Yeah, today's message. So on that note, I've got some questions for you, Danny. A couple of questions that have come in through different sources, which were quite interesting. And so I've already told you that one of them, but for the internet, for your benefit, the question is, so one of my friends the other day, I was talking about Danny and about the fact that she stumbled in I think it was in a Skype call we were having. She stumbled over how old she was. And I was telling this to a friend, and they said, well, does Danny age? And I was like, well, My first incident was naturally Danny ages. I mean, Danny has a birthday every year. She gets older. Oh, wait, hang on. Because is Danny an alter? Wait. Does the body age? So, in that note, we're going to talk about birthdays, aging, and getting older. Danny, tell us about it.
It's a mind F. I don't want to swear.
Minefield.
Minefield.
The non-swearing version. You can tell Scarlet's there.
Yeah, she's very much. She's like, oh my God, guys. It's weird. So obviously my body ages. I have a birthday every year that's in June. So
it's your legal registered birthday, birth certificate, goes on the documents.
Exactly. As Danny, I don't feel the age that I am.
Okay.
So I'm 34. I'm really old.
But not as old as me, so it's fine.
But
and not as old as some of your alters.
No. But I don't feel it. Like, I don't. But then at the same time, like, well, how are you supposed to feel when you're 34?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I don't really feel 37.
Yeah. So it's like, do I age or do I just not know what it's like to be that age? If that makes sense. As for the other alters, Luna and Scarlet are both around 21, 25. They stay that sort of area. My little is about 8, 10 sort of age. Danielle is the legal age. She very much is an adult. She's probably a bit older. She's probably closer to 40, to be fair.
So although Danielle is the secondary legal entity to Danny, obviously you are registered as Danny or Danielle, and that is your legal entity, and that's on the birth certificate. As an alter and as a part of your personality, Danielle actually feels older than that.
Yes. So me as Danny and Danielle feel different ages.
That's really interesting, actually, because you'd imagine though you two being the legal entities being the closest, but there's no reason why you would be the closest in your feelings.
No. Because all of us are alters. It's like there's no core, there's no main person. It's essentially as though if you take like a plate, for example, and you drop it on the floor and it breaks. It's like, which one is, there's no one big one. It's like, they're all big. Okay, different one. Chocolate bar. Take a chocolate bar, break it up into all of its pieces, mix it around a little bit.
There's no main bit of chocolate.
Which one was the original chocolate bar?
Yeah. That's really interesting, because obviously the assumption is that because and again, you only have presented as Danny for so long because Danny was the named entity, the host. Yeah. Danielle was the name you were given at birth. Danny was the name that you've grown up with. So it's very easy to assume that just that one person that you're most likely to meet is the main person. But obviously, the more conversation we've had, Danny is out the most. Danny presents the most, but that's probably because I suppose as an alter, she's had the most experience out.
Yeah, she's the one that just. It's like when Anita's called me a landing page.
Oh no, but so actually we've discussed that. Me and my other half discussed that because I spoke to him about it and I was like, it's so for the internet. If you've not seen the tweet, a little while ago, I hope you don't mind me explaining it. Danny was having an identity crisis. She didn't know what part of the system she has. So we've discussed before that. You have your protectors and different types of protectors as well, and the persecutor roles. And Danny wasn't really sure what her part of the system was. And so Anita very helpfully said, you're kind of like the landing page. And the thing is Danny was like, oh, that's a bit upsetting. But I was like, no, it makes sense in Anita speak, because I always think of you as Danny as the central, not because you're the main host or the core, but everybody has to go through Danny. Danny is the page that everybody comes through to come out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're the connector to the rest of us. You connect the alters through Danny to the world. I think, and I will wait till I next speak to Anita, but I think that was more what she meant.
Probably.
That I feel like I've just hopefully, Anita, watch this and let me know.
It does make me feel better.
But I think that I'm just trying to humanise what Anita just said.
Because Anita's not very good with words, in general, and she will say that kind of stuff. And when she said it, I was like, because I know like all alters have like a role within the system, but they're more than just their role.
Yeah.
You know, so you can have a protector that will make a mistake, or that isn't very good at protecting that particular thing, because they're also allowed to be rounded individuals in themselves.
Yeah.
You know, a persecutor isn't always going to be a persecutor.
I mean, ultimately, this is part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Is, you know, every D&D character is an archetypal of your fighter, your, you know, hero, this or that, but they're not just defined by those archetypes. You know, we're talking about rounded characters with flaws and, you know, ideals and bonds and all of those things that you have as a personality, as well as just that functional role.
Exactly, which is why I think it matches with DID. So
D&D.
Yeah, DID matches with D&D so much, because you do have that party, and you know, anyone that is building a party, you know, your party ideally needs to be balanced. You know, and if you're a party and you're missing, you know, your healer, or you're missing your tank, you have to adapt.
And things get skewed.
Yeah. So the same thing with the way it works is, as a system, we function as a D&D party. You know, it's just one body that you're dealing with. We're basically all inside a Titan, going around stomping down villages. I'm imagining the end of like Vox Machina campaign now. Inside the giant one. Yeah, so with the age thing is, it's all alters are generally different ages. Some alters will age just like the body does, others stay the same age their whole time. You can age
have
slide
alter
as
for
well.
10 or 15, 20 years that you're aware of, but has always stays that same age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they're almost trapped in that age. That's who they are. They very much are that age, and that can be a variety of reasons. Others will just suddenly start to age. You can get littles that will grow up. You can have teenage alters that will start to grow up. You can age slide as well, where you can slide between ages. So sometimes I will feel like I'm more in my 20s than I am my 30s. And it's really disorientating when you do that, because I will feel like I did then, a bit more carefree, not quite as many responsibilities I do now. I wasn't a mother back then. But at the same time, I don't feel like any of the other alters. I'm like, okay, this is definitely me, and I'm definitely feeling this, but it's not quite me. It's a really weird sensation to have, and apparently that's when you're age sliding.
Okay, so there we go, internet. We've learned that Dani does have a birthday, and she probably would appreciate birthday wishes in June, but she won't be able to tell you if you ask her how old she is. And actually, one of the other questions, so because we spoke about this earlier, and you were saying that obviously some alters age and stuff. One of the interesting things we discovered today is, Dani, other than your legal birthday, do any alters have a birthday?
None of mine do.
Do you think but do you think that's something that they're not that bothered about? But it doesn't factor into the world they've created or they're part of? Or?
Sure. It's not something. I mean, when me and my partner first got together, one of the things that he asked me was, do my alters have other birthdays?
Was he thinking about how many presents he had to buy in a year for you?
Essentially, yeah. Probably. Or like how many like breaks away we can have, or like special occasions.
Great, it's another birthday!
Yeah. It's like, well, she's got 10 alters and there's 12 months in a year, so, you know. It's like Christmas every month other than one because of Christmas. So I was like, no. I was like, well, the only ones that in theory would do would be Anita or Sonia, because they're fictives. But Anita's birthday, to my knowledge, has never been written in the books. I'm not entirely sure if Sonia's has either. But it's not something that they've ever spoken about or mentioned, so I don't know if it's because it is a big deal to them and they don't want to bring it up, or if actually they're quite happy just sharing the same birthday because it is still the day the body was born, not necessarily when they were.
That's interesting, actually. I suppose it's going back to what we've discussed before, is there's nothing, your experience is still only your lived in experience of a disorder that, yes, other people have, but they'll still have their own lived in experience, because in essence, what you have to remember about dissociative identity disorder is each alter is a person in their own rights.
Absolutely.
So it's that personal thing with, actually, it might be that they just, their birthday is very private to them and they want to celebrate it in their own way to themselves and they don't want to share that. Or actually that because they are an entity with your body, that actually they're just like, well, that's, in essence, they came from that, even though they may have appeared 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line or what have you, they came from
it still.
Yeah. Well, okay. And that's something maybe we'll explore with they, because at the moment we're just picking the races and the classes for the characters, and then we're going to go back to each one, because I'm aware internet we haven't done background and we haven't done character, but we're going to, and actually that might be something that's quite interesting to see whether they do divulge anything, whether if they pick the same day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting on that, because when we go back and we do the backgrounds, it will give them all more time to talk about their own backgrounds, how they think they would be in this universe, if they do have any specific birthdays or anything. Hopefully that kind of stuff will come up then. And I'm hoping for the people that are following this, that by the time we get to going back over Luna's character and Danielle's, that they will have more questions and will want to ask things for those particular alters, because everyone's starting to understand internally that everyone's getting their own shot at being themselves on this. Whether they choose to come forward or not is up to them, but they are definitely more curious and around when they know it's their turn. Some more enthusiastically than others.
I mean, we've seen that. And I wondered if this is something I was going to ask you. Obviously, I let you lead on which character, which alter we do and which character sheet we build, because obviously for you it's I can imagine harder to do if they're not present. So for example, when it was just Anita and only Anita was around, it made more sense to build Anita than anybody else because she was there. We obviously built Danielle's without Danielle around because we both agreed Danielle was never going to step up and appear for this. But interestingly, even though we've talked occasionally about doing Scarlet's, we hadn't got round to hers yet. And I thought it was quite interesting that she'd found a build she wanted and had sent it to me after I'd met her when we had that chat the other week. Even though I'd not fully met her, it was just she was there.
She was there.
And I felt like, I don't know, and it would be interesting to have Scarlet's feedback on it. And I felt like almost it was like she had sort of seen me and was now a little bit more comfortable in making a suggestion herself.
Yeah, because Scarlet she's a complicated one. So she's essentially Luna's twin. That's kind of how it comes through. But they're opposites.
Okay.
Complete opposites. So whereas Luna is very generous and loving and will put everyone else first and wants to heal the world, Scarlet is very selfish. She's very protective of her own stuff. And as far as alignments go, not morality, she would be more on the evil side, because she will do what benefits her and will always do what benefits her regardless of everything else, which is sometimes the best thing for everyone within my system, is for her to say, actually, no, we're not dealing with this anymore, we're getting out of it. Other times it's detrimental because all of us will be like, no, we can't handle this right now, we shouldn't be doing this. And she'll put us in situations because she's the kind of person that is so stubborn to the point where she will cut her nose to spite her face. It's like, and if you imagine, because generally in our experience, when people have gone through trauma, they either end up completely kind of shut down and don't really very meek. You get the ones that are really bubbly and are like, actually, no, we're going to love people even more because we know what it's like to be, hurt. And you get the people that hate the world because of it. She was more that side. So whenever she holds all of my anger, basically. So she's very angry and pissed off a lot of the time. But she's nice. She's not a nasty person. She's not, as far as alters go, she would be classed as that evil alter that everyone always worries about. But they're not evil, they're not bad, they're not suddenly gonna come out and like, you know, stab you or chase you down the street or fight with you. It's just they're the ones that are more spontaneous in their actions. But anything they do is more related to the person. So usually they're more inclined to harm the body or be self-sabotaging towards us than anyone else. And that's something that she's a lot better at now. She's got communication and she's got things like this to actually help.
Because you refer to Scarlet as that she used to be the persecutor alter, but she is now she's now shifted to one of the sort of more guardian and gate, the ones that look after the system.
Yeah, she's becoming more of a protector in her role now. Is because a lot of the persecutors, not all of them, but a lot of them in DID systems, they're not inherently bad. It's just the way that they choose to deal with situations aren't necessarily the best way.
Yeah. So
they will choose to fight their way out of a situation rather than, you know, talk their way out or just avoid the situation. You know, they're the type of people that just can't avoid conflict.
And I suppose, you know, if you're looking at it from the structure of why something like this happens, you know, we've talked before that it comes from a traumatic experience, that's just a different way of dealing with difficulty and pain, you know, to hate the world and lash out rather than to embrace the world.
So if I lash out and hurt everyone, then they can't hurt me.
They can't hurt me again.
It's that thing. It's the very classic thing of don't get too close to me because I'll push you away. And then they'll go to straight lengths to prove to you that you shouldn't like them and you shouldn't trust them. And it all comes from a place of fear.
Yeah.
It's no, we can't trust you, so we're going to push you away because that way you can't hurt us.
So do you think, or Scarlet, if you want to answer, you're more than welcome. Do you think that because you said that since Scarlet's had more communication and more outlets like art, so do you think that shift is really down to being able to express that fear and anger and communicate it in a way that's different to before you had this awareness?
Absolutely. So she was able to, I mean, the art and the creative stuff with the clay has just given her something that she can do, that she can channel her energy into. You know, so if she's angry, she can just, you know, squeeze it. She can make something out of it. She can then destroy it. And a lot of the time with anxiety and anxiety disorders in general, especially in like the work that we do, is the best way to help them is to give you an element of control.
Yeah.
And once this all came to light, for Scarlet, knowing that she has an element of control, that if she wants to do something, chances are we can do it. If she doesn't want to do it, that she'll be listened to.
Okay.
And that's the main thing, is that she was always seen as like the bitch of our system. She was always the one that I personally, as Danny, have had a lot of trouble accepting because I've never liked her. Because I'm like, okay, a lot of the bad stuff that's happened and a lot of the arguments in my past relationships and stuff are all due to her. And I'm like, and you've just been sabotaging my life.
But actually, I guess, yeah.
But from her point of view, she's like, actually, I wasn't sabotaging, I was protecting you.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to suddenly realize that everything that you've done that you thought was self-sabotaging is another person of you self-sabotaging on your behalf, but then actually trying to protect you instead. And I'm like, that's a weird one to wrap your head around.
No, and like you said, you know, the hardest thing I guess early on was once you started, you know, looking at the different alters and understanding that these different, and then realizing where those fractures and fault lines and arguments in your past may well have happened. But actually, again, you know, it's nice that actually the relationship you've come to and the understanding, because you could have continued to blame and ostracize Scarlet as an alter, but rather than that, you've decided to kind of take her in and work with her and
well, I have an inherent personal belief, I guess, is that no one's evil, like no one's bad, like everyone deserves a chance. to rectify themselves. And I'll give people so many chances before they prove to me that actually, no, I am bad. I'm like, okay, fine, go, you know. And with her, I think because I can see everything that she's done, I can go, actually, because you did that, this happened. And that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have done that. And it's like, and you've actually been looking out for us. I don't agree with her methods.
No.
But I understand it. And now whenever I get angry or frustrated about something, is I can tell because my hands get really twitchy. And they kind of do like the fist pumpy sort of thing. And I'm like, that's Scarlet. And like she'll do like this kind of tapping notice. So I notice that my hands get very fidgety, which is why the clay is so useful, because it gives her something to do. So as soon as I start to feel that, I'm like, well, I see it because I don't feel it, because she's the one that's feeling it. Because as a thing, I have never been able to get angry about situations on my own behalf.
Okay.
So I've always explained something to a friend, and then they've always like blown up. And I'm like, I'm overreacting a little bit. They're like, no, you're underreacting. It's like, this should be bothering you. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't.
But
and
then
it is bothering you.
That's not Dani's role. That's not what Dani does.
No.
That's what Scarlet does.
That's what Scarlet
She's busy doing that for you in the background.
Yeah. So she's getting angry on my behalf in the background. But because she's always struggled to come through, it's taken a very sudden kind of jerk almost to get her to come through and stand up for us. She's always been able to come through messaging a lot easier, because she can take over control of the hands really easily. But to come through properly, she's always struggled with.
Interesting.
But whenever she does come through, is I think because of the insecurity that she has from being the persecutor, and because everyone knows her as that, she will rarely come through. Sorry. Thundercats. Yeah, she will rarely come through as herself.
Okay.
So she tends to be either co-conscious or co-fronting alongside me, and I won't always be aware of it. I know that she's around at the minute, but if she switches in fully or not, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'd know afterwards when I watch the video and go, I don't remember that conversation.
But that's why, obviously, and actually it's really interesting that you're saying that obviously Luna demonstrated in the very first video we've done, and I know that Luna has a very strong ability to come through and to take fully over. Mm-hmm. Where it's interesting you said about the Scarlet that she's able to come through more in messaging, because she seems to have a brilliant control of your hands while Dani is still talking.
Yeah, it's right. It's
and
something where
you'll see if Dani, by the way, starts to really intently focus on what she's doing, I think it's that Scarlet also directing the eyes to the hands.
Yeah. A lot of it is, plus the clay that we're using is air dry clay. So we've got a time limit, and we opened it about an hour or so before we decided to do this. So I can feel the frustration in her going, we don't have a lot of time to do this.
I am sorry, Scarlet. That's my bad. But we will try and do it as quickly as possible so you can get back to your creating.
Well, luckily for us, we're really good at multitasking.
Well, yeah, when it comes to you talking as Dani and claying as Scarlet, I have witnessed the production of a beautiful owlbear, or did we decide it was going to be some kind of sphinx or something?
It's possibly a phoenix. It's
just that's right, you said a phoenix. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and but then again, obviously, that's a really, we've talked about the persecutor alters before, and they're bad alters. And actually, that's really interesting. You said that a lot of her insecurities come from the fact that she gets introduced and known as the persecutor alter, and weirdly, even though she's not really a persecutor alter anymore, she's more of a protector. And actually, you now understand that what she does when she acts as a persecutor was actually always to protect you.
Yeah.
It's still the first thing I knew about her, because when you first defined them in your head, that was how she was defined.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that, there is I guess what I'm trying to sort of say is that, obviously you talked about her having a different morality to the others, but there is still a level of understanding of morality that this knowledge that maybe, yes, she does things in a certain way that others don't agree with, and she's aware of that. She probably still thinks her way is right, and she probably doesn't completely understand why everyone thinks it's...
Yeah.
But she also understands on a slight moral level that perhaps she should feel bad.
Yeah, I think she would... The easiest way I can explain it is like in terms of alignment, is it would be more like a lawful evil, possibly neutral evil sort of thing. I'd probably say lawful because she has very kind of strong values in herself and what she believes. But so she will, do something for the sake of this that other people might be like, whoa, was that really necessary? It's like, well, to her, yeah. But it wouldn't have been a very bad thing. She's not like, she can be nasty. And she is like, when I'm in like, she was passive aggressive bitch mode originally. And I get it. It's like sometimes you need those people around you. You need to have that assertiveness within you to let people know where your boundaries was. And looking back, all she ever did was just enforce the boundaries that I could never enforce myself. But because people were so used to me or Luna being, very polite, push over to a degree, we're not overly assertive.
Very sweet, quite laid back, and quite friendly.
Yeah, it's like a lot just wouldn't bother us. If it's like we'll quite happily keep doing things and accepting new projects and keep taking on. But if there's something we don't want to do, then we will say no, we'll be assertive. But it takes a lot to get to that point because we have like endless patience. She doesn't, so she would always come through, and it would be such a sudden change for people that not everyone could deal with me suddenly turning around and saying no. They're like, well, what do you mean no? And I'm like, well, no. And that says more about the people we were dealing with than anything for her.
I mean,
it took a lot to.
In her defense, people perhaps shouldn't necessarily see someone as hopeful as maybe Luna or as laid back as Dani and take advantage of that. And actually, that's what Scarlet is trying to prevent. Yeah. Do you find now that you've got more of an understanding between you and Scarlet, that when she does come through, it's less of a really blunt?
Yeah, I'm not as well. We're not as worried when Scarlet comes through that she's going to do anything impulsive. Unless the only exception is if we're angry and something has happened, then we'd rather her not go and have a showdown with the person, because she will just, verbally bitch slap them essentially. But it's not something that we're as concerned about as we used to be, because we understand it more now. And I think because she has more respect for us as a system and because we're working together, she doesn't need to do that, because we avoid a lot of those situations. And
because she's being listened to, because she's being listened to when she's saying maybe actually, that's not a good thing, or that person's taking advantage, rather than getting to that frustration place because the rest of the system is just blindly going into the situation, and therefore she has to come out, lash out, and in essence destroy that in order to protect the system. You're listening to the system also. I guess she's your kind of first line of defense. If Scarlet, if her spider sensors go off and she says this isn't good, now you're more likely to be like, wait, hang on, let me listen to Scarlet. Why?
Yeah.
As opposed to just blindly.
Yeah, because she was always so down. So even Anita, like as the main protector, because Scarlet would be so confrontational, it goes against Anita's nature. Anita is not a confrontational person. She will protect and she will defend and she can fight, but it's tactical. Everything's tactics for Anita. We don't need to do this right now, whereas Scarlet's like, no, this needs to be done now. So you get the impulsiveness.
With Anita, when we were building it, that actually one of her highest traits is probably going to be charisma. So it'd be charisma and dexterity. Dexterity for her gunslinger, but charisma because actually she was saying that her first approach would be, let's try and talk her way out of the situation. And if she can't talk her way out of the situation, then she will go into having to fight. And that's what made me think of the gunslinger, because I was like, in essence, that's Percy. That's what Percy does. Yeah. Although she didn't really get the reference. So I think
she doesn't watch it quite as much.
So she's so although she has a fighting ability, hers is more of a conversation. And actually, on the other hand, I'd probably put Scarlet as having high charisma, but I'd probably say with someone like Anita, we put the points in persuasion.
Yeah.
But with Scarlet, I'd probably say put the points in intimidation.
Because
it's a difference. They're both, I suspect, both of them use verbal in a situation, whereas Anita would be like, let's talk about this and let's try and get to a resolution, and Scarlet would be like, no, I am going to threaten you till you back them down.
Yeah. Anita would be like, look, do you want to talk about this? And Scarlet would be like, do you want to fucking talk about this?
Yeah.
It would be that kind of, sorry, language again. It'd be that kind of thing. She will talk away out of the situation, but she'll talk through threats. Whereas Anita will talk more through compromise.
Yeah. So with that in mind,
yeah.
we actually we pretty much know what class Scarlet's going to be, because Scarlet sent me a video. I will share this. I'll wait till this video's gone out, and then I will share the video build afterwards so everyone can see that that's what she was basing it on. But it's a video build for Hela from the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So goddess of death in the Norse mythology, but this is based on the Hela from the Marvel cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So we decided, or Scarlet has very, and I go looking through it, I think, it's definitely got that.
It suits her a lot. There's a lot in there that we would change.
Yeah.
So like the race is like, she doesn't see herself as an Aasimar.
No. Do you know what race she would see herself as?
Potentially more tiefling.
Do you know what? When she sent me the message saying this is the build.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sure if it was Danny sent it from Scarlet or whether it was Scarlet, because she addressed.
It was probably Scarlet sending it.
Yeah, I think she was not sending it as herself, because she said this is the build Scarlet's chosen, but I had a feeling it was Scarlet had sent it. Yeah. And she didn't want to be an Aasimar. And weirdly, the first thing I thought of was tiefling, but I think that's partly for a couple of reasons. Partly because Scarlet is the kind of reversed of Luna, like the opposing twin of Luna. And actually, I was like, I know Luna wanted to pick. We talked about how Luna would want to pick tiefling, but for every reason that Luna couldn't have tiefling, worked for why Scarlet could have tiefling. Also, because the tiefling in the book is red, and my head went Scarlet, red, tiefling. Yeah. That was literally, I will be honest, the first jump to my brain went, obviously, Scarlet is red. Red is tiefling. She's got to be a tiefling. But I think actually, aesthetically, it works really well.
It works really well because Luna would often have arguments with her in my head, and these would always be what I thought was like just imaginary place scenarios when I was daydreaming. Where she basically would see her as this kind of sorceress demon type thing with like the curled horns, and she has black hair with like bright red bits in it, so like your typical villain hair essentially. And she would have these kind of sorceress type powers. And when we were going through this and I was looking at Scarlet, I was thinking, actually, for intimidation and stuff alone, a tiefling's always quite handy.
And they get, I'm sure, I don't have a player's handbook on me right now, but I'm pretty sure they get, one of the stat bonuses they get is a charisma. I'm sure they get a charisma stat bonus in their racial abilities, and I'm sure it's charisma.
I do get some more.
Yeah. Again, and I think that would work, because for me, I was thinking that Scarlet's charisma would be very much the, you're going to listen to me or I'm going to smack you down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I've got it on my phone. I don't know why I could just walk into the room over there and get them, but that's
yeah, your charisma score increases by 2.
Yeah. And I think you just need to choose, there's 2 different types of tiefling you can choose, I think.
You got self-reliant and suspicious and infernal bloodline.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely think a tiefling is the right look. Obviously, Scarlet, you don't have to be a red tiefling just because I've decided.
In 4th edition, tieflings are purple.
Oh no, it is purple. I don't know why I've got red in my.
It's 5th edition. That's our 4th edition, but we've got 5th edition.
I think it's not on the tiefling. It must be on a different page. There's a red one, but you don't have to be a red tiefling, Scarlet. You can be any colour you want. Do you know what colour she'd want to be?
She would probably want to be red, to be fair.
that her aesthetic?
Yeah. Red's her favorite color.
Okay.
It's like fire and death and danger and all that.
Is
kind
that
of
why she chose the name Scarlet?
Yes. Yeah.
It's fair enough. It's simple. It sums up exactly what she presents herself.
What she is, who she is. It's that.
So that's it. So we've chosen race because the build that we're basing this on had fallen Asimir, and I think she's right. It's not the right race for her, especially because that's the race we've chosen for Anita.
Yeah.
And again, I feel that because she's come into her protector role as a different pathway through persecutor, she needs to have that slight separation from Anita. I think the class choice is brilliant. It's a really clever choice because I think it really sums up her pathway from persecutor and that darkness and that death to actually having a protector element, and actually because that's the main root of the class. So the class that she wants to be, internet, is a cleric, which is where I'm saying that it's now, she's developed into a protector. She has some very specific ways in her mind she protects that are quite different to, sort of the way Luna protects or the way Anita protects.
Mm-hmm.
But the domain that has been chosen is the death domain, because she still has this dark and brooding side. She still has this control of, yes, Scarlet is now a protector, and yes, she will probably use her cleric ways to heal someone, but she probably would also use her cleric ways to take life from someone.
Yeah.
And then heal, which she can do with vampiric touch. I will have your life, and then I will heal myself.
Yeah, she would. I could very much see her in a intimidation type thing where they need to get information out of someone, threatening to kill someone, killing them, talking to their corpse, and bringing them back to life. I could see her as like doing that entire thing because she could justify killing them purely on the fact that she knows she can bring them back. So even though the entire party would be horrified that she did this, she'd be like, but I know I can bring them back, so what's the issue?
And then that real grey area, and it plays on really nicely in the fact that, so, clerics do actually have this real grey area with death. The fact is that they make death potentially, especially with the 5th edition rules, because unless you homebrew the rituals, go down the Matt Mercer route, which is actually what I do in game. I do the Matt Mercer rituals for resurrection and heal it, and the spells that bring people back to life, because I'm kind of like, basically, as soon as you've got Revivify at 3rd level, you're like, oh yeah, died, bring you back. And I'm like, the death is not like a threat anymore. But I think that's really interesting to use that as in Scarlet's mind, that real grey area of. So actually, I had one of my cleric in the game that I have is very, very. Kayla is a very good girl. She's got a good heart. She's a bit of a winter babe. She's seen some years on her. She's seen some hard times, but in essence, her goddess is a goddess of life. She's all very positive. She's a life domain. It's all about life and healing, and she got into a really dark place where she actually threatened one of the NPCs they were dealing with. She actually threatened to do that. She was like, I will kill you, and then I will bring you back, and I will kill you again, and I will bring you back. And everyone was just like, that's dark from her. But actually, that's the kind of, Scarlet would be like, well, no, that's just like really obvious, I can do it. So it's not a...
Yeah, there'd be no moral thing for her, because she'd be like, well, they're safe, Yeah.
Well, this is it. For Kayla, it caused a moral dilemma in session or in game for quite some time, because she was like, oh my god, what have I become when I'm actually going to use the gift of life that my deity has given me to torture someone. Whereas there is there isn't that moral. I've got that control and I can do it, and if you're going to be an arse, I will.
Yeah, and she very much has that controlling, very domineering nature. So she does have that more domineering, assertive aspect. So having like command and things, so she could, it's like in a fight or something, if someone's messing around, she would just quite easily command them to kneel and then cut their head off. It's like, fine, you're bigger than me, but can you if they'd missed their save, right, or she'd do the whole, we need to rest, or like someone needs to rest for some reason, and there's like a bunch of armies. If she can do like a mass command once she's that level enough, she'd be like, okay, you guys dig a hole, okay, have a rest. It'd be those kind of situations where the way that she would play the role as a cleric would be very different to your life kinds of cleric, and it'd be nice for her to be able to explore her darkness in a safe way, so she can learn how to actually find situations and rectify situations without having to resort to the anger straight away. And that's why I think the role play game will be really, really useful for her. Even if she doesn't actually play it, if she just watches us play it, and I get little bits of feedback through when we're doing the games. But to watch how Luna would deal with that situation, how Anita would have dealt with that situation, for her to kind of stand back and go, oh, those situations, they work.
And I suppose that's the other thing that that's, as much as we're using this as a way to show other people and hopefully for other people to learn, when we actually get to the role play game, it's a way of you safely testing. And this is the thing, is actually there was it's an interview with Satine Phoenix, and she talks about how play is really important, especially as an adult, because it's a really safe way for us to learn. It's one of the only safe ways for us to learn as an adult, because in the real world you don't get to make mistakes without there being repercussions. No. Whether that's at work or in your social life, in your relationship, what you're doing is for reals then. And as an adult, we're meant to know how to handle these situations. And if we don't handle them very well, everyone suddenly is like, and pointing fingers. And so D&D or role playing is a really safe way for you to play and practice and learn. And actually that'll be a good way for her to experience, well, where is that line between doing something and not giving about the consequences, and when you should really care about the consequences. Because in her mind she might not care about the consequences, but maybe there'll be consequences for other alters or for the entity as a whole.
And one of her things I think should be really beneficial for her is to realizing that no response is still a response. That's the biggest thing for her, is that when Anita or myself are like, you know what, this isn't worth our time, we're going to focus on this. And we see that as the better choice to make. It's like, well, no response is still a response. Actually, for us, it's more powerful because that response isn't worth our time. We're going to focus on this instead. And we see that as very kind of healing and very good for us. Whereas she's like, no, you can't let them get away with this. And she gets held on to that side of things. So I think role playing, for her to be able to role play, okay, let's let the thing go and not shoot it in the back with an arrow. See what happens. And for it to not be a consequence, or to be a consequence, we don't know at the game, it'll be very cathartic for everyone to experience those things. And for the ones that do let it go, to have it bite them in the ass later on, so they can see what it was like for Scarlet to kind of go, told you so.
How old is Scarlet? Because you said she's like Luna's sister.
About 21, 25.
So similar age to Luna. They're in essence,
they're essentially twins.
I was gonna say, you've talked about them being like siblings before, so they're twins in age, and then opposite in many other ways.
It's the best way I can describe them. Is they're opposite twins. They're yin and yang. It's like Luna's all the light, Scarlet's all the dark.
But do they consider each other as siblings?
When I hear them talk to each other, they sound like siblings. They seem to have this argumentative discussions, but still have each other's back.
Okay.
So
because you want to talk about the pair of them together.
Yeah.
Because they do very similar things.
They've always been around. In my head, Luna and Scarlet have always been around. There's always been that darkness and light sides of me that I've kind of always been in the middle of this battle of. And I think it's between being the bad child that everyone thinks you are, or that you think you should be because of that happened to you, versus the good child that you know you are and you think you should be. Whereas the child that I actually am, where I'm neither, I'm just, your average bog standard child. And it's the two just split off. And Scarlet, whenever she thinks of Luna, sees her very much like a younger sister. It's that very annoying, little sister that she will always want to kind of bully and pick on, but if anyone else does it, she'd smite them down. And Luna's like, I don't like her, we'll moan about her all the time, but if something happened, we'll run straight to her for help. They've got that family relationship that I feel within me, whereas with Anita doesn't have any family type bonds to any of them. It's all very much, it's like she's just security for the family. Like, it's like she's a living security guard that just...
She's a firewall.
Yeah.
She'll get that. Yeah, needs to watch the back. She'll get that.
Okay. Because she has no like emotional attachments to them all. It's just she's there to protect them all and to make sure everything functions properly. But she doesn't see any of them as anything else. Faith is very much like the nurturing great grandmother. She's like the old the old shaman that lives in the woods. It'll be interesting to do hers next time.
I've got some ideas for Faith, I'll be honest. I think I know, like, in my head, I think I know what I would do her as.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it has to be a druid, right?
Has to be a druid, yeah.
Has to be a druid. And race-wise, I've got some ideas. I might send them to you.
It's the race that I'm quite curious about, but we'll stick with Scarlet before we...
So I will send you, so internet, not to confuse things because we're on Scarlet right now, but I will send you, Danny, some my suggestion for race for Faith. Okay, so we have got a really nice shape of Scarlet. I really appreciate the work she'd already put into forming herself. I'm assuming she seems quite happy in the background with what we said so far. She hasn't disagreed with anything.
No, she's quite happy with everything we've gone through so far. I can hear my voice. She's been around for a lot of it, so I don't know how much of this is me and how much of this is her.
I think definitely there is a 50-50. So you lose your accent slightly sometimes when you're the alters.
It'll be nice for people to watch to see if anyone can have a look and point out if they've seen me on the other ones as to how different I am in this video.
I was going to say, I feel like Scarlett's definitely had an influence on your dress today.
Oh gosh, yeah, collars and
I was going to say, you looked, as soon as you logged in, I was like, I definitely think Scarlett's around because I've not seen you in an outfit like that before.
No. Anything that is relatively gothy is usually Scarlet. The dress is more Anita because it's more like pastel. No, Luna. But yeah, all the stuff and the hair is all Scarlet.
Basically, we're saying Scarlet and Luna dressed you this morning, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
You also said hair as well. That's because I've very rarely see you with your hair tied up. And you have your hair tied up today, and I think the last time we spoke and Scarlet was around, you had your hair tied up. So is that a Scarlet thing?
It could be. I've never really thought about it.
Because you tend to wear your hair down a lot.
I have it down all the time. I don't know if it's because it's hot, if it's up.
Just wondered.
It was put up like this just before we went on with you. So it was definitely a preparation thing. Now I think about it, it could have been Scarlet. I didn't really pay much attention.
If you're there, Scarlet, and you want to let us know how you prefer your hair. You know? Luna definitely likes it down so she can play with it. We know that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what
she likes it down or in bunches so she can twirl it.
Yeah. Scarlet's like, no, I'm going to tie it up so Luna can't get to it.
That's probably it, It'll be I'm not going to have her messing with my hair, so I'll just keep it up out the way, because then she can't do any of the twisty stuff with the front.
She can't do a thing to it.
Yeah, she can't touch it now. So
okay, well,
do you have dice?
Want to roll the stats? You're going to have to put down the play.
You've got a face at the minute. There you go.
Oh, coming along. And then we can we'll do Scarlet stats, and then that's another one put aside for the moment, and then you need to think about who next we're going to do.
I think we should do Faith, as we've mentioned her.
Okay, we'll do Faith next.
I think Faith will then be the last of the active alters.
Yes, no, because we haven't done Danny.
Oh, we haven't? Yeah, that's a good point.
So we've done Luna, we've done Anita,
yeah,
done Danielle.
Yeah.
We're going to do Scarlet today.
We'll do Faith and then Danny.
And then we'll wrap up with the more permanent alters with Danny, as Danny is the person that most people meet the most.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to the and then we can round up with explaining the difference between active and passive ones, and then we'll move on to the passives.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So
Okay,
what's that?
do I need, is it 6 dice you want?
4 dice.
4.
4 dice rolled 6 times.
That's it.
So if you roll the 4 and read me the numbers.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, 5.
Okay.
Oh no, that was cocked. Ooh, 6, 5, 5, 4.
5, 5, 4.
Hello, charisma.
Yeah, I was going to say, we found your charisma score.
I keep rolling off the thing. 4, 3, 2, 5.
Okay, cool.
5, 3, 2, 3. 6, 5, 5, 5. Nice.
Nice.
Hello, intelligence. 3, 2, 5, 4.
Okay, that's it. Perfect. So we have the stats. So what we'll do is once we've finished off doing this part for everybody, so we'll go back and we'll do sort of just a really focused episode on each one, working out where you want to put those stats, taking into account, obviously, you know, so with Scarlet, I definitely think one of your high ones is going to have to be charisma. But we'll also have to think about what her spellcasting thing is with wisdom. I think that actually, no, wait, yeah. No, it is wisdom. Sorry, I just had a moment when my mind was like, what is a cleric cast with again? Wisdom. But actually, I think, in essence, you know, I think that works quite well, having her have quite high wisdom as well, because you could argue that she definitely has a certain level of wisdom when she identifies situations as bad.
Yeah.
She's got that good gut sense, so that works quite well.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah, I've written down her name on that one. So I have to write the name down on each one so I don't end up getting them confused. So is there anything else you want to add to the character build? Is there anything that Scarlet wants to add?
Not to my knowledge. I think we're all pretty good with
Where we're at?
With where we're at so far, yeah.
Oh, then that.
If there's any questions that anyone has and wants to find out more about any of us,
yep.
You know how to contact us. We're always on Twitter.
Yeah, send us a DM on Twitter. Send us, you know,
you can comment below. You can hashtag us.
Yeah, but what this did DIDnD&D. Yeah, DIDnD&D. So yeah, just, you know, send us a tweet, whatever, if you've got questions, if anything comes up from this. But that was Danny, Scarlet, Luna, and anybody else who's around today discussing birthdays and Scarlet's build.
Yay! All right. Bye-bye, Internet. It's good to see you all.